Hi, welcome to ThreatTraq Essentials. We're going to take a look at some basic everyday cybersecurity lessons that we can learn from this week's ThreatTraq stories. I'm here with Bindu Sundaresan. How you been, Bindu?
Good, thank you, Don. How are you?
Great. Haven't seen you in a while. Great to have you back on the show. Let's talk about the story Matt brought to us, which was about some attacks on Microsoft Exchange servers. This is a very big deal because those are widely used in email.
Yes. So, widely known, Microsoft email exchange server, most of us have used it, right, in our day-to-day lives. And, again, this is about a vulnerability, which is called a zero-day vulnerability, which means that patch did not exist until that day. And Microsoft released the patches. So the key is you need to stay ahead of the threat landscape by being aware of these zero-day vulnerabilities when they come out. So you have to know where your servers are, where your exchange servers are. Are they facing the internet? Prioritize those, patch them. Then go ahead and patch your internal exchange servers as well, even though they're not exposed to the web. And make sure you continue to maintain a clean and healthy infrastructure. What do we mean by that? Know where your key assets are. Make sure that you patch them with the known patches that are available, and continuously monitor for these types of zero-day vulnerabilities. Stay in the know.
Yeah, you brought us an interesting story about what's called the supply chain attack. That's really where an attack happens to a vendor that a lot of companies may be using. In this case, it was a vendor that airlines were getting service from, and the vulnerability and attack that happened through there. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we all rely on other organizations to help service our needs, right? So every industry is just not a parent company alone. We interface with all those connections. So in this case, the airline industry uses an IT provider, common across the airline industry, and what they do is offer services that sort of keep your frequent flyer miles, are able to give you those loyalty membership programs. And this is again not payment information, but they collect things like your first last name, passport information, potentially where you've traveled, dates of travel, your current mileage that you hold, all sorts of personal information related to your travel profile. And there was a leak in this vendor that was being used by a number of airlines. And why is this key to be brought up? When you think of security, right, and when you think of data security, don't just think of only payment information, right? We immediately think, oh, what if my credit card gets lost? I'll call and change that.
But it's more than that, right?
Much more than that, right? Yeah. So your personal information, right? Anything that I can identify and make sure that it is you, personally identifiable information, which is basically called PII. That is crucial, right? Because today people are not just after that credit card information. The malicious actor wants, all of this information, your user ID, your password. Think of the last time you went and changed your user ID and password in all of these airlines that you travel with. We all set up accounts, right? So, a good best practice would be to change that, once in 6 months or so, just to avoid, those being compromised. Again, you can start somewhere, right? So this breach was about raising awareness that, across the board, we all share multiple data forms in different walks of life, whether it is in retail, in healthcare, in travel, in finance. So, safeguard that data, right? So think about what information you're sharing, and also don't reuse passwords, right? Don't reuse the same user ID and password combination.
And lastly, Andy brought to us a story about some research that's being done about Nim Malware, which is a programming language that's not really used that much.
Yeah, so it's an interesting evolution in programming languages, right? So we all know C, C++, Python is a big deal. Nim is one of those, I consider it a newer language, even though it's been here for a decade or so, according to, what we saw. The key is, the idea is you think of a malicious actor who wants to write malware, wants the malware to not be caught, right? So they don't want the AV, engines to catch them. They don't want the current tools to be able to really look for that specific malware. So they're coming up with, creative ways of using programming languages that are newer, that are also very flexible, lets you sort of compile in different platforms, and using it to engage and not just do good, but also to do bad, right? To be able to craft this malware. Again, this is not prevalent yet, but it's good to know because this is a programming language that can be done and used for the good as also for the malware creation. So I think we just need to be in the know about these types of languages that are being used.
So you always need to be a few steps ahead of the bad guys.
Yes. Security is a team sport, right? We always say this, which is why we're doing this, right? Like we do ThreatTraq to make sure that we raise the awareness in the community as a whole. And, every one of us play a part in it, technical, non-technical, depending upon our job profile, if you're connected, you need to be secured, right? So the idea is to make sure that you play a part in it.
Well, great. Thanks for that great advice, Bindu. And if those of you watching want to keep up on this great advice every week, please like or subscribe below. And if you want to take a deeper look into any of these stories, click on the playlist below. We'll see you next time.